Your cat isn't following you into the bathroom out of curiosity. They're following you because, to them, you just did something alarming. When you disappear behind a closed door, your cat's brain, wired by thousands of years of survival instinct, registers your absence as a disruption to the one bond they depend on for safety. And what most owners laugh off as clingy behavior or feline nosiness is actually one of the most revealing attachment signals a cat can show. By the end of this video, there's one specific thing that happens in that first second after you close that door, something most owners have been missing their entire cat's life, that I want you to really sit with, because once you understand it, you will never see this moment the same way again. Most people think their cat follows them into the bathroom because cats are weird. That's the short answer, right? Oh, they're just curious, or they want attention. And on the surface, that feels true enough. But here's what most people miss. There's a specific reason the bathroom, out of every room in your home, seems to trigger this more than any other space. And when you understand why, really understand it, you start to see that your cat has been trying to tell you something important every single time they do it. Before we get into it, here's something I want you to hold on to. We're going to talk about a lot of behaviors today. The door scratching, the paw under the gap, the meowing the second you sit down. But there's one signal, one specific thing your cat does in that room that most owners have been misreading as something trivial for years. It's not trivial. It's actually the clearest sign of trust your cat is capable of giving. We'll get to it. But first, let's start with the thing almost every owner gets completely wrong. One, the closed door. Here's where it gets interesting right away. Think about what you're actually doing when you close that bathroom door. You're creating a barrier. And in your cat's mind, barriers are not neutral. Before I tell you what that really means for them, consider this. Researchers studying domestic cat behavior have found that cats who live with a single owner show stress markers, elevated heart rate, vocalizations, increased restless movement, not just when the owner leaves the house, but when the owner becomes invisible inside the house. A closed door triggers the same neurological response as a departure. That's not what most people expect to hear. And because it doesn't look like obvious distress from the outside, most owners never make the connection. Most people assume that cats are independent, that the whole point of a cat is that you don't have to worry about them needing you constantly. And cats do have an independent streak that's real. But here's what most people don't realize, that independence is conditional. It exists within a framework of security, and you are the center of that framework. When you vanish behind a closed door, even for 3 minutes, you've disrupted the framework. Your cat isn't being dramatic at the door. They're recalibrating. To your cat, a closed door doesn't just mean I can't get in. It means I don't know where my person is. And that distinction matters enormously. This goes back thousands of years. Wildcats, the ancestors of your domestic cat, lived in territories they could surveil. They needed to know the location of threats, of prey, and of anything that mattered to their survival. Domestic cats have kept that spatial awareness, that deep instinctual need to monitor their environment. And in your home, you are part of the environment. Not just a food source, you are a landmark. When you move out of sight behind a closed door, your cat does what their instincts demand. They go looking. Most owners go their cat's entire life thinking the bathroom thing is just a quirky habit. They never realize their cat is performing a deeply instinctual behavior every single time. And they miss the chance to understand what it says about how much their cat depends on them. Stay with me, because the next part is where it gets more personal and more surprising. 2, the stillness signal. Here's something that sounds almost too simple to be true, but there's real science behind it. Your bathroom might be the only place in your home where you are completely still. Think about that for a second. During a normal day, you're moving. You're in the kitchen, you're at your desk, you're walking past your cat without pausing. Your cat is tracking all of that movement. But in the bathroom, you stop, you sit, you are, for a few minutes, not doing anything except existing in a space. And to your cat, that stillness is an invitation. A 2019 study from Oregon State University looking at feline attachment found that domestic cats pay significantly more attention to owner behavioral patterns than most people assume. They track your rhythms, they learn your routines, And one of the strongest predictors of a cat approaching for social contact is not whether you're calling them or whether you have food, it's whether you've stopped moving. Most people assume that if they want quality time with their cat, they need to initiate it. Sit on the floor, extend a hand, make the space welcoming. And that works. But here's what most owners don't realize. Your cat has already calculated when you're accessible. They already know when you're available. And the bathroom, because of its particular combination of smallness, quiet, and your full undistracted presence, has become one of the highest value windows they have in any given day. To your cat, this is not about the bathroom at all. It's about you finally staying in one place long enough to reach. The loss in this is quiet but real. Think about how many moments your cat has waited for you to be still, tracked you through the house, watched you move from room to room, and never quite had the chance to close the gap. The bathroom is where they finally can. And most owners think it's just a funny cat thing. They shoo them out. They close the door faster next time. They miss what's actually being offered. And here's what makes this even more fascinating. The specific physical behavior your cat shows once they're inside is where the richest communication is actually happening. We're going to get into exactly what each behavior means. But before we do, there's a layer underneath all of this I want to plant your mind right now, because it's going to matter a great deal by the end. There's something your cat does at the exact moment you close that door. Not after, not when they're scratching, but in that very first second that tells you more about your bond than almost any other behavior they show. Hold that thought. 3. Guarding, vulnerability, and what your cat actually senses about you. This is the part most people find either deeply touching or a little strange, depending on how they think about cats. But here's what the behavioral research actually says. Cats are extraordinarily sensitive to human emotional and physical state. A 2020 study from Nottingham Trent University confirmed that cats respond to their owner's stress, stillness, and perceived vulnerability with increased proximity seeking. When you seem less defended, your cat moves closer. Here's the thing most people don't expect to hear. The bathroom, evolutionarily speaking, is one of the most vulnerable positions a mammal can be in. You're seated, stationary, physically exposed. Your cat senses all of that. Not because they're analyzing it the way a human would, but because they are wired to read the body language of the beings in their social group, and your body language in a bathroom is unmistakably different from your body language anywhere else in the house. Some cats respond to that vulnerability by becoming more alert. You might notice them sitting up straighter, watching the door, positioning themselves between you and the entrance. That is guarding behavior, not aggressive, protective. It's the same impulse that brings a cat to your side when you're sick, or makes them sit quietly near you on a hard day. They're not hovering because they want something. They're hovering because something in their instincts says, this is when presence matters. Most owners interpret this as their cat being weird about the bathroom specifically. They joke about it, they film it. And there's nothing wrong with that. It is genuinely funny. But underneath the joke, your cat has been doing something profoundly loyal for years. And most owners go their cat's entire life without ever recognizing it as that. And hey, if this is making you see your cat differently, hit subscribe. It's the best way to help other cat owners understand what their cats have been trying to tell them all along. Now here's where I want to introduce something that ties all of this together. Because I've been talking about what this behavior means on its own. But there's a specific pattern in cat behavior that shows what happens when the bathroom following starts and what it actually represents when it does. Feline behaviors sometimes describe a point in a cat's relationship with their owner called the trust threshold. It's the moment at which a cat who was previously guarded, previously anxious, previously unwilling to follow their person into small enclosed spaces begins to do exactly that. And the bathroom is often the last room they enter, not the first. Think about that. For rescue cats, for cats who came from difficult backgrounds, for cats who took months to even sleep in the same room as their owner, the bathroom is the ultimate test. It's enclosed. There's nowhere to run. There are no exits to calculate. It requires a specific, deliberate kind of trust to walk through that door and sit down. And the owners who notice when their cat first follows them and really notice, really understand what it means, those owners describe it as one of the most emotional moments they've had with any animal. We'll come back to this, because the way it ends is something most people aren't prepared for. 4. The attachment science most owners have never heard. Here's something the popular understanding of cats almost always gets wrong. Cats are not attachment neutral. They are not indifferent to bonding. A landmark study published in Current Biology, a 2019 study from Oregon State University, found that domestic cats display secure and insecure attachment patterns toward their owners in exactly the same way. Human infants display them toward their caregivers. When placed in an unfamiliar room with their owner and then briefly separated, cats with secure attachment use their owner as a safe base. They explored when the owner was present. They were visibly distressed when the owner left. They settled when the owner returned. This is not a small finding. This is the same attachment framework that developmental psychologists use to describe the bond between parents and children. And cats fit it precisely. Most people don't know this. Most people still operate on the belief that cats tolerate their owners rather than genuinely bond to them. That belief costs something real, because if you think your cat doesn't care whether you're there or not, you're going to misread every signal they give you. You're going to see bathroom following and think, weird little creature, instead of seeing what it actually is. The bathroom behavior, viewed through the lens of attachment science, looks completely different. It's not a quirk. It's not neediness. It's attachment behavior, the same behavior that makes a securely bonded animal maintain proximity to the person who represents safety, warmth, and stability. Your cat is not following you into the bathroom because they're nosy. They're following you because their attachment system has activated, the same system that, in a young human, makes them cry when a parent leaves the room. To your cat, you are not just the person who feeds them. You are their safe base. And when you disappear behind a closed door, they come looking not out of curiosity, not out of stubbornness, but because something deep and instinctual and fundamental to who they are pulls them toward you. Most owners spend years finding this funny without ever finding it profound. And both things can be true. But the loss is real. Every time this moment is dismissed as a quirk, something your cat was trying to communicate goes unheard. 5. What the specific behaviors mean once they're inside. Most owners focus on the following itself, the act of getting in. But what your cat does once they're inside the bathroom with you is where the richest communication is happening. And most owners are so amused by the whole situation that they miss it entirely. If your cat comes in and immediately rubs against your legs, that is scent marking. Not in a possessive, territorial way, in a belonging way. In cat language, depositing scent on something means, you are part of my world. You are mine. Not in ownership, in belonging. Your cat is saying, with their body, that you are a member of their social group and they want their own nervous system to register it. If your cat comes in and sits at your feet and simply watches you, that is monitoring. That is the guard behavior we talked about earlier. They are not asking for interaction. They are being present. And presence, to a cat, is an act of care. If your cat comes in and immediately starts exploring, sniffing the cabinet, pawing at the drain, peering behind the door, they're doing something that looks like curiosity, but is actually environmental reassurance. They are confirming that this space, which carries your scent, which you use regularly, is safe. Once they've confirmed it, they will settle. And if your cat comes in and lifts a paw to rest it gently on your leg, that's the one worth stopping on. A 2022 study from Kyoto University examining tactile contact between cats and their owners found that cats initiate deliberate touch with their owners significantly more often in enclosed, quiet spaces than in open areas of the home. The bathroom is one of the most common sites for this kind of self-initiated contact, and what makes it meaningful is the mechanics of it. When your cat lifts a paw and rests it on you in a small enclosed space, they have voluntarily reduced their ability to move quickly. Against their own survival instinct, they have made themselves slightly more vulnerable to stay connected to you. Most owners see a cat paw on their leg and think, cute. What they don't realize is that it's one of the highest trust signals in a cat's behavioral repertoire. And most of us have been accepting it like it costs nothing because we didn't know what it cost them. 6. Remember earlier when I said there's something that happens in that first second after you close the door, something most owners have been missing their entire cat's life? This is it. The moment that tells you everything is not the scratching, it's not the meowing, it's not the paw under the door. It's what comes before all of that. In the seconds immediately after you close the door, your cat will do one of two things. They'll either walk away, and if your cat walks away, that doesn't mean they don't love you. It may mean they're securely attached enough to tolerate a brief separation. It may mean the bond is stable and the absence doesn't destabilize them. But if your cat sits down directly in front of that door and waits completely still, that is the signal. Not pacing, not yowling, sitting, facing the door, holding the space. Behavioral researchers who study feline separation behavior describe this as vigil posture. It has been documented consistently in cats who have formed strong primary attachments to their owners. The cat is not trying to get in, not in that moment. They are doing something else entirely. They are orienting toward you. They are staying as close to where you are as the architecture will allow. They are, in the only language they have, keeping the connection open through a barrier. Remember the trust threshold. Remember the rescue cats, the anxious cats, the cats who came from places that made trust difficult. The thing their owners describe, the moment they realized something had genuinely shifted, the moment they understood that their cat had truly bonded to them, was almost never a dramatic gesture. It was the first time they looked back through the gap under the door and saw two small paws pressed flat against the cold tile, completely still, facing them. Not scratching, not demanding, just there. That cat had crossed threshold. That cat had decided that their person was worth the vulnerability of that small, enclosed, no-escape space. And the owner almost didn't notice. Because it looked like a cat sitting by a door. Because it was quiet. Because the most important moments between cats and their people almost always are. Because here's the thing about cats. Their deepest love is not loud. It doesn't perform. It doesn't arrive with fanfare. It shows up in a vigil posture, on a cold tile floor, in two small paws pressed flat against the ground, in a body making itself still and staying as close to you as it possibly can. 7. So the next time your cat follows you into the bathroom, notice whether they hesitated at the door before coming in. If they paused and then came in anyway, that took something. Second, watch what they do once they're inside. The rub, the sit, the paw on your leg, each one is communicating something specific about where they are with you. Third, and this is the one that matters most, if you close the door and it goes quiet, no scratching, no meowing, look under it. You might see two paws, flat on the tile, completely still on the other side. That is not nothing. That is not your cat waiting for dinner or trying to manipulate you into opening the door. That is an attachment-bonded animal doing the only thing that makes sense to them when their safe base disappears behind a barrier. Staying as close as they can get, holding the space, keeping the vigil. Most owners spend years finding this funny without ever finding it profound. And the comedy is real. You are never going to have a truly private moment in your own home again. And there is something genuinely absurd about a 4-pound creature treating your bathroom like a crisis situation. But underneath the comedy, your cat has been having a very sincere experience. Every single time. They're not following you in there because you're interesting in a new room, or because the faucet is fascinating, or because they've decided your 2 minutes of stillness belong to them, though that's part of it too. They're following you because you are their world. And in the world of a cat, the boundaries of safety end exactly where you disappear from sight. So close the door if you need to, but know what's on the other side of it. And if you ever look down and see two small paws pressed flat against the tile, facing you through the gap, know that what you're looking at is not a cat being weird about a bathroom. What you're looking at is your cat's version of saying, wherever you go, I'm not ready to lose sight of you yet.